another drink with Eddie Irvine. Eddie and I were recording the second session today, so we're still on the same sort of beer than we were before. Eddie, over your Formula One career, you came over quite a lot of remarkable people, some of them really outstanding. We talked about Senna already. You've been teammate to Michael Schumacher, you met Bernie, you had to deal with Max Mosley. Were there any people you would say you admire for what they did?
I think probably number one would be Jean Todt. I think Jean had a very difficult time at Ferrari. You know, he had to deal with Montezemolo, he had to deal with the Italian press, he had to deal with the Italian regulations, the expectations of the Tifosi. So that was probably the most difficult job in Formula One, and to put the team together that he did, to then go on and win the Constructors' Championship with me and Michael, and then go on to win the Drivers' and Constructors' titles with Michael and Rubens was incredible in that period of dominance. Very impressive, the team he put together and how he dealt with it. But again, he had the budget to put the right people together, and he did it. Very clever, very, very clever man. Very impressive. It was funny after having been to Ferrari and then gone to Jaguar, which was just headless chicken motorsport. It really was. Everyone was running around, and there was no one who could grasp the power and take it forward, because there was the Ford people kept jumping in, and Jackie was jumping in, and it was just a mess. You know, it really was. It was like 10 heads, and not one of them really knew what they needed to do, because they hadn't really been at that level. Jackie had, about 30 years before. Jackie's a very clever guy, but you know, he's just too old. You have to admire Bernie, what he's done. You know, how, not because of where Formula One is now. I think Formula One would have probably got there anyway, as has any number one sport. If you look at all the number one sports, the tennis, the golf, they're all huge because the world has a desire for sports. Soccer, they're all big, you know, so I think Formula One would have got up there, but the fact he was able to massage it so he took all the money is incredible. You know, you have to give him 10 out of 10 for that. It was like pure genius. And then Ross, for his just ability to go step by step by step and not ever panic and make jumps forward. Everything was always so measured with him and his calmness. One of your compatriots now, he's at Haas, is Günther Steiner. I actually really liked Günther. I thought he was going to be fantastic, and Ford got rid of him. So that was like, you know, bizarre. But anyway, it's great he's had a second chance at Formula One. So far, it seems to be going well. No, he was impressive too. Who else?
What about Michael?
Michael just was an amazing talent for me. You know, it's like his ability brought everybody together, because whenever Michael was in the car, everybody knew the problem was not the driver. And I don't, you know, that's probably the case with Lewis now, and it's probably the case with Alonso. It's been the case with Alonso for a long time. But even to a greater level, when you put Michael in the car, you knew the problem was not Michael. And that then attracts the quality of people. I think there's a lot said about Michael that's probably exaggerated, but his ability to drive a car was second to none.
You talked about Jean Todt, you talked about Ross Brawn, and we talked about Michael. Is it true, because that's what's often being said in Germany, that Michael brought all those people together, or was it really Jean Todt who got the act done?
I think it's Jean Todt, because Jean Todt had the master plan, and he knew he had to get Michael, and once he got Michael, because at that stage Michael was worth a huge amount of time over every other driver. You know, his ability was just incredible. The cars weren't as easy to drive, so his ability gave him more time as they started to understand the pitch sensitivity and the roll sensitivity and and the floor stalling, things that made the cars really difficult to drive, and they started understanding that and getting rid of them issues. Michael's ability made less and less difference, you know. But he was definitely the initial piece of dirt, bad word to use, but that attracted all the other things around to create the pearl that Ferrari ended up becoming in that period.
Yeah. Let me ask the other way around. Did you run into any people you don't respect a lot in your time?
There's a lot of people that I think live off the work of other people. That they've reputations that are, I think, ill-deserved. But you know, good on them. They're getting paid good money, and it's not my money, thank God. But you know, they keep going from team to team, and they make money, and they keep getting jobs. But I wouldn't hire them.
Any names that spring to mind?
Not naming any names, but you know, there's plenty in Formula One. That's one of the great things about Haas. That you know they're trying to do it in America, which is great because they can hire new quality people as opposed to trying to steal people off the existing teams. You know, it's an interesting way of doing it, and I think it'll work.
Is there anyone in current Formula One that you admire for something he's doing that you probably haven't met in your time?
I don't really watch it that closely, so I don't really know. I don't know enough about it to be able to say who's responsible for what.
Yeah, okay. And Eddie, finally, outside Formula One, any people that come to mind that you respect for what they're doing? Could be Mother Teresa, or I don't know, anything you might think of.
You have to look at the American elections. What's going on here? You have to say Bernie Sanders is quite incredible. Like, if you look at his track record, he's pretty much been correct on most of nearly everything he said. Trump is coming across as a lunatic. I don't think he's as big a lunatic as he's pretending to be. I think he's going to win the Republican nomination, and then he's going to back. If they let him, it's bizarre. You look at Bernie Sanders and you look at Trump, and they're getting the popular vote, and they're not winning. It's scary that democracy. Not that I'm a massive fan of democracy, but it's democracy in America is looking like it's a massaged version of democracy, isn't it? It's not the one man, one vote. It's them two guys have really opened everybody's eyes to what's been going on here in America for a long time. So it's going to be interesting. You know, you got to say Clinton's probably the safest pair of hands. It would just be great if we could have Obama for another 8 years, because he just seems so sensible, and you know, he hasn't been perfect by any means of imagination, but he just doesn't make rash decisions and rush in and then go, oh shit, you know. He hasn't been perfect, but Hillary is a bit more hawkish than him, and you would hope. You would say it's a safer pair of hands than anybody else. I think Bernie's maybe the time's not right for his extremism to the left. But what he's saying, a lot of it is true and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And Trump was too dangerous.
It's interesting about American democracy, isn't it? That families always seem to come up again. It's like the Clintons had their break, the Bushes, Jeb Bush was even. It's interesting. The big families are coming up every now and then.
It's not good, but you know, then there's always the person. Look at Obama. How can a guy from a broken family who's half black? Everyone says he's black. I don't think he's black. He's as much white as he is black. That's I don't understand why he's the first black president, because he's not black. He's half white. In fact, he's more white than he is black because he was brought up by white people. So I don't get the black thing. His wife's black. It's amazing that he's come from that to be president of the United States. That shows what an amazing brain he must have, the same as Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton got from being nothing to getting to the highest position in the world, effectively. And, you know, when you see them people achieve that, they've achieved it because they have a real talent, and they both did very good jobs, in my opinion. Then you look at the hereditary ones, Bush Jr., who just made probably the worst president ever. Just, cowboy, shot from the hip, and just made a mess. Anyway, and we're still dealing with it, and we'll be dealing with it for a long time. And now you've got Clinton. All right, Clinton, a lot more deserving than Bush Jr. Obviously a lot smarter, but at the same time, she's far from an ideal candidate. Far from an ideal candidate.
All right, Eddie. We're going to talk about this after the election again. Thanks a lot for your time. Hope you enjoyed your drink.
I did. It was lovely.
Cheers, and speak soon.